So, welcome back to this episode of Repressed Humor. We're so glad you're here. Glad to be doing this again. I'm going to keep introducing myself by my new screen names. Napkin McDapperpants, who has no pants. Ryan.
And I am the Metro City Madman, who is New Jerific Dan. And if you watched if you listened to our minisode, you know where that came from.
I think it's metrosexual city man.
I just had to put Metro in there somewhere because apparently you don't know enough to know you don't want to know anything about Ted Nugent.
I just know he hunts with a bow and doesn't like people like me.
Nobody likes you.
That's fair.
I mean, come on. Our entire website is dedicated to me making fun of who you are.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
I think it's on every page.
Pretty much.
There's something on every page.
Yeah. And some guy named Steve that nobody knows who Steve is.
But god damn it, Steve.
Yeah. Fuck you, Steve.
Fuck you.
So we forgot to set this up, but we got to have a sponsor for today, and I'm just going to go for it. We got to get Zima in here. I mean,
Zima. God.
Anybody who thinks in the United States, the pale beer capital of the world, that making beer that looks like water differentiates it from Budweiser and Bud Light, I mean, you need all the help you can get, and you should be sponsoring us.
Well, Zima had a lot of flavors. It wasn't just the lemon lime, right?
I never drank one. I was in Canada. We drank real beer.
Wow, I don't know if I was of age to have one yet.
Yeah.
Before they went out.
It was a gimmick. It was a gimmick at best.
Well, it's like Mike's Hard Lemonade all over again.
Yeah, but Mike's Hard Lemonade has a point. Zima didn't. Zima was just, it's clear. It must be better for you. Yes, but it has low alcohol content and tastes like Sprite. Why not just have vodka and OJ?
I was gonna say it's like a Smirnoff Ice then.
Yeah. Realize if you're new to this show, every week we have another defunct company that we ask to be our sponsor. None of these companies are our actual sponsor. We should clarify that before we get sued.
I had a great one today.
Well,
they're not defunct. They're not defunct till 2025.
Okay, well, leave it for next episode.
All right. It's fucking great too. I gotta type that out to myself or I'll forget.
Okay. Well, while he's doing that, I gotta bring up a topic. We never said we wouldn't go serious here, and I think that something happened this week that requires some seriousness. A gentleman in Alabama that was on death row lost all of his appeals against being executed by nitrogen gas. Now, there's some hyperbole that happened over this. There's some real extreme views on this. We're not trying to profess extreme views or anything like that, but attempting to murder somebody for using an untested method that is akin to the gassing that the Nazis did in the concentration camps in World War II. We need to take a step back and look at ourselves as human beings when we allow that to happen. And we're being dead serious here, folks. This was not something that should have happened this way. If they could have tested it somehow humanely and validated that what they said was going to happen, that would have been great. But this was a 22-minute experiment that they said would take 2 minutes. We need to step back and think about this before the next person endures that. Now, some of you are going to say he was on death row. Do we really care? Well, the Constitution says we care. Some of you are going to say, well, it was inhumane because he shouldn't have been on death row anyways. We're not trying to profess that. Okay. A man struggled for 22 minutes on a gurney strapped down while they pumped nitrogen gas into his lungs and killed him. because they didn't want to wait until they could get a better execution method.
I it's wild to me. I mean, I so when you mentioned this that you wanted to talk about this, I hadn't necessarily known the direction you wanted, but of what I knew about the situation, that's immediately where my mind went with this, is that this was akin to Nazi concentration camps.
Cyclone
Um,
B. Yeah.
and that's not the United States we should be living in,
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah. And I think that the way that this happened is rather interesting as well, because this was the second time that they tried to execute this man. And I'm trying to find his name. For some reason, his name evades me right now, even though it's been all over the news. But he wasn't even the person that killed the person. He was the second. He was in the room while it happened. Now he was paid. Okay, there's an amount of this that very definitely the death penalty was probably right. Um, but it's kind of odd that he wasn't even the real murderer. The real murderer died uh, 12, 13 years ago. And yet they're trying to do an experimental way of being able to execute him. It's just not right. Whether you're pro capital punishment or against capital punishment, you just have to be against what happened in Alabama.
I mean, especially like experimenting on a person. I'm not for experimenting on animals or anything like that. But I mean, this is a wild, wild, far-reaching action by Alabama. I mean, definitely a mark on their history, a negative mark on their history.
And part of the problem with this is that what they've said is if you don't want to be executed by lethal injection, you have to give us another way that you want to be executed. They don't allow them to say, no, I'm just against execution. I don't want to have the lethal injection. They have to give an alternative method. So one of the things they did was said in court filings that they used against him, they said, well, he asked for nitrogen gas because he didn't want the lethal injection again because it failed the first time. Well, you didn't give him an option to say, I'm against all execution methods. You only gave him one that was untested that he said he would not have chosen if he had known what was going on with it at the time. And now there's 43 other people that they're planning on executing with nitrogen gas in the next couple of years in 3 states. And Alabama is selling this as an execution method to other states.
22 minutes is not an execution method. I'm sorry. I mean, that's absolutely bonkers.
Yeah.
I mean,
And And you could say, well, he stopped moving after a little bit, but he did not fully stop breathing until they closed the curtains at 22 minutes. What KIV and the other people in Alabama on the Department of Justice side are saying does not match with what the news organization said happened. So to say that this was a clean, simple execution, this would be akin to torture by any standard put in front of the Supreme Court.
yeah, I mean, he would have been better off at a firing line, you know?
Yeah. And I don't want to get into a debate about capital punishment, yes, no. It's
No.
just at a certain point, we have to understand that there has to be a limit to the ways that we're going to attempt to do capital punishment. And testing it for the first time on a human being is just not a way to do it. It's barbaric.
Yeah, shame on you, Alabama. Because I mean, like, you're right. The guy, death penalty, probably, yeah, that was probably the right choice. But this is next level.
Yeah, and he already had a ton of PTSD from the first time that they tried to do it because they spent 4 hours trying to find a vein. They have to puncture him twice, and they couldn't find the second vein. And he came out looking like a pincushion. The entire 2 weeks before he was executed, he was vomiting. He couldn't eat. He was just a wreck because he had been through all this before. He was only the second person to survive being strapped down and having intravenous added into his veins in the United States.
I mean,
So
could you even fathom what you wake up literally and you're still here? What kind of trauma that exacerbates on an individual?
that and the fact that he wanted his spiritual advisor there, but his spiritual advisor was worried that the mask was going to leak. Now, there's ways around that. I don't want to talk about the technical pieces, but they
Uh,
were also worried that he was going to vomit and choke on his own vomit right there on the gurney because they have to lay him on his back. It's not like they were going to lay him forward because then the vomit just sits over the mask and they can't see what's going on. There were so many things wrong with this, and Alabama rushed this. That being said, let's move to our next topic for today because I think that's a really heavy topic we just talked about, and we've got something completely different planned for today.
yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe in between topics we should like have a fart joke or something like that just to bring it back down to baser
Oh,
humor.
you are a fart joke.
I'm just I have a little bit of flatulence.
I was just trying to do it in general. How about this? Do you know why farts stink?
No.
So deaf people can enjoy them too.
Oh, that's oh,
My daughter and I did a dad jokes video for our TikTok channel, and that was one of the dad jokes I threw at her. So,
I do love a good dad joke. I do love a
yeah.
good dad joke. See, thank you for that. But if you want to, please go ahead and introduce the topic of the day.
Sure. So today we're going to talk about how trying to make sports popular wrecks them.
Okay, wait. Do you want to expand on that just a bit?
Yeah. So everybody knows what's going on with Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift right now. And everybody's looking at it. Oh, it's great for football. It's bringing new people in to watch football. And I want to give a cautionary tale on how trying to make sports popular with the masses eventually leads to their destruction. And we've talked a little bit about this before, but this is the NASCAR phenomenon. So back in the 80s and 90s, everybody watching NASCAR was really some form of gearhead. It wasn't sports aficionados, it was people that loved vehicles, loved cars, and the personalities that went with the cars. And NASCAR realized this and sold the royalties to Fox to get Fox doing the programming for it. And for a while, Fox kept the programming very, very, very technical for us gearheads that were watching. We wanted to know why exactly the car's crab walked down. We wanted to know camber angles and tapers and coilovers versus bump stops and all these technical pieces that made it fun to watch because little changes in the car, like a quarter turn of wedge, we'd be watching for time different changes and that sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden, they started getting more people watching because the personalities inside of the sport started getting more grandiose. It stopped being the hick and the rednecks, the moonshiners that were doing that. And no, that wasn't Ryan farting. That was him opening up his bottle of water, in case you heard that.
I also farted. Um,
but NASCAR went through a period of exceptional growth, but they grew into into a customer base or a viewer base that didn't understand the cars and didn't care to. They were brightly colored cars going around a track really fast. There were accidents. The accidents were cool to watch, and sometimes they were scary. And they took all the technical stuff out that kept us purists watching the racing.
huh.
Now I gotta take a break in that and let you comment on that part because I'll translate that into what's happening today.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's not well known, I don't care about NASCAR. Like it's never made sense to me. I don't get it. But I grew up playing what people would probably call typical sports, right? Football, baseball, basketball, track, etc. So I never understood it, even though my father is a gearhead. You know, he's the guy that rebuilds cars and paid way too much money for a AMC Javelin to have it fully restored and shit like that. Um, and that kind of stuff appeals to him. But, I do know that the turning point in the tide, if you will, because I had a lot of friends that would watch them, and I always tried to watch it because I wanted to try to appreciate and understand, like, what was so exciting for those individuals that really liked cars. But I found myself watching more personally when it became less about the technical aspects. But it's because I was never exposed to that. It wasn't anything that I understood. So I was kind of that minority that became the majority, if you will, because they made it cater to the people that had less attention to it.
Yeah. And those people are transient. Those people are there for a little bit, but they're just as easily caught up in the next shiny penny thing.
Yeah.
Yes, I just said that you have ADD
Who?
or ADHD, whatever you want to call it. But here's what happened with NASCAR. They tried to appeal to a broader audience. And a lot of what they did was they tried to appeal to a female audience. Now, they had a little bit of a female audience, but being
Yeah.
realistic
Yeah.
here, motorsports is more male oriented. The female elements of it need to come in, but you need people that are interested in the sport, not in the flash and the personalities, because the personalities wax and wane. And what ended up happening was they had a whole bunch of these new people coming into NASCAR. They lost the purists, and then these transient viewers saw the next best thing and moved off, and streaming happened, and people no longer sat and watched shows with commercials in them. And we're to the point now that NASCAR's been through multiple sponsors on their top two levels over the last couple of years. They can't keep a sponsor because they can't keep the viewership. They can't keep the adrenaline. They changed all the rules. They changed how people watched it, and they got rid of the purists like me that would watch it every single week, flag to flag. We just
So
don't do that anymore.
So it's safe to say that they stopped catering towards the Motor City madman and catered more towards the metrosexual madman.
Yes, yes, I would agree with that. Now, here's where this branches out from there. We've seen it in baseball where the rules have changed significantly to try to speed up the game. Now, there's some history to the
Yeah,
game, but 4 hours for a baseball game, okay, yeah, that was a little bit much.
yeah, yeah.
We've seen in international football, soccer, whichever you want to call it. You're overseas right now, so I guess I have to call it football, where they're just walking billboards now, or
Yeah,
jogging billboards for the most part.
yeah, where they have
Um,
AIG printed on their thing or whatever it is. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not a soccer fan. I played it to keep my lungs going when I was playing hockey when I was young, but I've never watched an entire soccer game in my life. Um, and now we're seeing it in football where they've changed a lot of the rules, and some of them for safety had to be there. And
Yep.
yes, they aggravated some of the people that had been watching for decades, but it was necessary. But we've now seen where the spectacle has come in, and this it started with Danica Patrick and Aaron Rodgers and Brian Urlacher and Paris Hilton. I think it was Paris Hilton. He was interested in, and now we're seeing it with Travis Kelce and Shania. I was about to say Shania Twain. No,
Uh,
Tay Tay,
wow.
Taylor Swift.
Yes.
And my wife's a Swiftie, so she knows everything that's going on in Jason and Travis Kelsey's life. She knows what's going on. She knows how much Taylor Swift's cat is insured for, and how many multiples of Travis Kelsey's contract her cat is insured for. She knows what's going on. She knew about Jason Kelsey signing his new contract before I did when he all of a sudden has decided he's not going to retire. People are getting caught up in the spectacle, and the sport itself
Yeah.
is
Oh, okay.
growing because of that. They're
It's
getting more people watching. But what happens if this weekend Kansas City loses to Baltimore?
don't say that.
I know you're a Kansas City guy, clown college boy, but this is the thing.
Well, yeah, it instantly loses appeal to a honestly a shitload of viewers that they've gained this year. It is a natural detriment. I mean, it's wild because you're not wrong at all. There's so much kind of Hollywood going on within sports now, or they're trying to make even celebrities out of these athletes. I mean, shit, just look at the two Chiefs players, Travis Kelce and Pat Mahomes. They have them in more commercials than any NFL players I've ever seen. Like, sure, Tom Brady was in commercials, Roethlisberger, whomever, right? They're in everything lately. I mean, they are the hot ticket. So these brands are cashing in on them as well. And it's partially to thank because of Taylor Swift. Travis Kelce is a successful podcast, but that's probably because of Taylor Swift.
I've got an interesting one. My wife showed me a TikTok shortly before I came in to record this that they found somebody that they're pretty sure it looks really like Travis Kelce on a box of hair dye in Sally Beauty.
I bought that box.
Okay. I'm just saying that all of a sudden, I don't mind somebody being able to get endorsements based off of NFL players put their bodies through hell. Okay. They reach a level where they're destroyed by the end of their careers. But
Yeah, yeah.
the fact that now, think of this fully end to end Travis Kelce on a bottle of hair color in Sally Beauty. That is not a core NFL market. You've never seen Sally Beauty, the official beauty supplier of the NFL.
Oh, yeah, but that's their slogan for next year, if you didn't know. Um,
Yeah.
but okay, so I want to go back to something that you said about the NASCAR that I think is actually playing into a lot of these different sports. So I understand that the celebrity injection is kind of the core impetus of a lot of this. But I think oh God, so sorry.
I don't want to know which end that came out.
The top. Uh, but the rule changes, I agree. Some of these rule changes, even for NASCAR, were for safety reasons, right? I mean, you have to protect the individuals. You have to
The
protect.
car changes were, the viewership changes weren't. And
But
that's,
I'm assuming there's rule changes along the way that also were implemented with how you can tune your car and things to that effect, right?
oh, they got very high. They wanted to get rid of all cheating out of NASCAR. And NASCAR was built on cheating. I mean, it was moonshiners that started it. They were souping up cars to smuggle moonshine across borders. I think the interesting thing is there's the technical changes that they have to get to be safer. The Dale Earnhardt death,
Yeah.
the Tony Roper death, they both sent shockwaves through it because they thought, these cars are now to the point that they're foolproof. Nobody can die in. And they proved that wrong on the biggest spectacle, on the planet, the 2000 NASCAR Daytona race, where Dale Earnhardt lost his life. And realize I was a huge fan of Dale Earnhardt. I still have a number 3 carved out of the pavement from Daytona when they resurfaced. It was a big deal for me. NASCAR was actually bigger than the NFL in the early 2000s.
Yeah, yeah.
And now it's not because of a couple reasons. The car of tomorrow was built to make the cars look more like the cars that were driven on the road. That was one of the impetuses. There were safety concerns in there that were good, but they found a lot of things that they didn't realize that were really dangerous in those cars because they rushed to get that car of tomorrow out. And they had like 3 or 4 generations of the car of tomorrow before they finally hit something that was right. But they took all the drivability out of them. They were so stable that the accidents that all of the people wanted to see weren't happening. The racing got very, very boring. The other thing that they did is they did these playoff systems. Okay, and NASCAR had always been you accumulated points right up till the end of the year, and at the end of the year, Winston Cup was given to the top driver. The Sprint Cup was given to the top driver for the entire year. Now all of a sudden you made it this playoff system that was
Yeah.
never what racing was really about.
No,
And
I've
that
never
was not
understood it.
done for safety. That
No,
was done to put butts in seats
well,
because
it's just like college football. They did the same thing. They put the playoff system in place to put more asses in seats. That's all it came down to. It's a money thing.
and here's the thing, the winner of the after they went to the playoff system, the winner of the playoffs very rarely was actually the winner that would have been there with the previous point system. What they were worried about was getting to Homestead, Florida, and there being no chance for anybody else to win. Them declaring a winner in Atlanta or a couple races before that,
Oh, yeah.
which had happened before that. But that was purely a viewership thing, not a good racing thing. That's not how racing accumulates points. And there's a reason why F1 doesn't do playoffs, or if they have, I haven't watched in a couple of years, but they don't do playoffs because it takes away from everything that you do for 90% of the races. If in the last race you could have dominated all year, blow a tire on lap number 1, and you lose the entire season's worth of work.
Yeah. But I will say, I think the figureheads that used to exist in NASCAR, no one's been another Dale Earnhardt, you know?
Well, that's part of the problem too. Dale Earnhardt was an ambassador for the sport. Dale Earnhardt Jr., not so much. He wasn't his father. He didn't have that personality. A lot of people retired. Rusty Wallace, Dale Jarrett. The Jarrett family is basically out of racing at this point. You ended up with people that weren't worried as much about the sport and didn't have the camaraderie that was there before. They were worried about winning races. Jimmy Johnson could care less about anybody else on the track. And that's just not the way that it used to be. Yes, they had animosities, and NASCAR tried to play some of those up. Matt Kenseth punching out Joey Logano, stuff like that. But it just didn't work because it wasn't as natural as it was before, where they would be brawling in the pits. Now it was one punch and everybody's broken up.
So now I'm thinking about this in a different angle. I know this was a little bit about celebrities, a little bit about rule changes, a little bit about commercialization of these, but maybe that's not the reason this is happening in all sports.
So what do you think the reason is?
They're trying to make sure the WWE doesn't get more popular by keeping at pace with their storylines.
So let's take the humorous side to this, because I don't know if you know this. I don't know if Vince McMahon had to resign
I saw that.
because of the sexual assault.
Sexual assault or sexual trafficking?
They said both. He's been accused of both.
All right, cool. Okay.
But the WWE is not a sports. It's a fucking soap opera. Okay, it's always been that way.
It's so real. It's so real. It's real. They're slamming each other on the mats. There's no mics in those mats.
My favorite part was, and this is where I knew wrestling was fake from a very young age. This goes back to the early years of WrestleMania, of 3 or 4, where Hulk Hogan was fighting Andre the Giant. Okay, and they fought for like 20 minutes. And at one point, Andre the Giant is supposed to go pull Hulk Hogan off of the turnbuckles and throw him across the ring to the other turnbuckles. And what I saw was Hulk Hogan put out his hand so that Andre the Giant could grab it to do so. And in my 6 or 7-year-old mind, I realized, wait, why would he do that? Why would he help him hurt him? If this was real, that wouldn't happen. Okay, and I started then looking at it with a critical eye, seeing, wait, they always kick out at 2.5. Nobody kicks out at 1. Okay, and some of the times that they're doing stuff, somebody will be like slapping a thigh to say, okay, I'm going to go on this side of you. So the person knew which side to hold the arm out to do a neck breaker or whatever, where they wanted to do.
Lariat or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a clothesline. What I'm worried about is all of a sudden you're going to have Patrick Mahomes saying stuff. Remember the Peyton Manning Omaha that everybody thought he was getting money from Omaha Steaks. Okay, so you're going to have Patrick Mahomes sitting out there saying, Gap A2. Because what he wants is he wants to let them know which gap they're expecting to run through, because he's been told that they can't get that first down because they have to keep the score closer because that'll keep more people watching for a longer period of time. Because the worst thing that can happen for a sport is for a game to get so out of control that nobody wants to watch it.
Well, so I'm a pretty passive sports viewer, but I do believe somewhere that, like, as an example, in the NFL, they got rid of the whole, oh, thumbs up, uh stupid, the on kickoffs. They changed the rule of where the spot of the ball is.
Yeah,
Like, I contend that that's a way to add more time to the clock 'cause no clock ticked off on the kickoff. It made things less entertaining. There's so few kickoff returns now. It's driving me nuts. I used to look forward to
that's
kickoff returns. Like, let's go
but
back
that
to
was to
XFL
reduce
rules.
concussions. That was a safety issue because all of these players going the opposite direction. When they're doing a regular play, they're going in the same direction generally. People may cross, but they're not going in 180 degrees towards each other. Okay. There was an issue with kickoffs where kickoffs were getting more and more dangerous. Now, there's multiple ways that they could have done that. Okay, they decided to make it so that most people wouldn't want to kick off because they could kick it off through the end zone.
Yeah.
What I'm surprised is more teams haven't figured out, okay, well, there's a way to pooch kick it into a corner on a consistent basis that force them to return it, and we can do it better because now we're closer to their end zone. There's all sorts of things about that. The original impetus of it came from the college game, and a lot of rules like that do. That people were getting hurt, they had to stop them from getting hurt.
Hmm.
Now, at the same time, there's rules that are okay. Let's protect the quarterback so that if I whiff my hand across his face when he's throwing the ball, and it looks at all like I touched his helmet, that's all of a sudden a personal foul.
Yeah, I think they've I get that stuff, but it does, as somebody that played football for longer than I should have, I understand,
Yeah,
right? But I don't agree with it completely because I think they've taken some of the magic out of the game with that. Like, I think, okay, yeah, still don't hit any player in the head. Do your best not to hit each other in the head. That's a pretty good rule of thumb when it comes to football.
yeah.
But to your point, like, when they just breeze by the helmet a little bit and that's a 15-yard penalty, it's like,
And it
really?
completely disrupts the flow of the game, and the penalties start taking over and become the decider of the game instead of the enforcer of the rules. Yeah, and hockey went through this too. I'm a big hockey fan. I don't watch hockey anymore because for a while it became okay, how many fights are we going to have this game, because they were encouraging fights by just letting people fight, and the penalties did not equate to the damage that they were doing to people. Okay,
Right.
and then all of a sudden you have people that are knocked out on the ice. They took away the hits that were people were jumping or launching with elbows when they were hitting, because those were issues with concussions and doing damage to people that it was ending careers. They
Well,
had to do something about it, but at the same
so
time they took away some of the excitement of the game because what they allowed it to, it's called the trap defense. They allowed it to become something where the game became very boring because those long Gretzky passes where he used to go on the breakaway fell off of the game because everybody knew how to stop that every single time. And the game became lackluster, it became slower. There's just a lot of problems with it. And they're just now getting to the point that they're getting people back into hockey arenas because, first of all, they realize hockey in the desert isn't a good idea. You're always going to lose money at that. But they're also realizing that the rivalry is more important a lot of times than
yeah.
the rules. And having to take everything to an instant replay slows the game down so much that people lose interest in it. You can have fights in games, but people shouldn't go to the games to see the fights. I
Well,
mean, in the 70s and 80s, people used to go to the Philadelphia Flyers games and get into fights up in the stands.
so
Okay, that's
okay,
how much fighting
like
was there.
like pull ourselves out of, we've talked about three sports pretty intensively. So what sport hasn't been impacted? Like
Um,
where,
uh,
I
Water
mean,
polo.
that I was gonna go synchronized swimming, but I guess water polo, fine. But no,
Yeah.
like mainstream sports, like I'm curious, like, is there really a sport that it hasn't been kind of upset by celebrity influence or these rule changes, some necessary, some unnecessary? Is there really a sport out there that is kind of old school in nature still today? I mean, off the top of my head, I don't know it well enough, but I perceive it to be the same. But tennis, y-
Uh, yeah, I can't speak an awful lot to tennis. Tennis is just not a sport. Same as golf. Watching golf on TV is like watching paint dry to me. I
yeah,
just can't do it.
it's hard.
What I would say is baseball has resisted some of the urges to change. Yes, they're trying to make the games faster, but a 4 hour baseball game was a long time, anyways, and they were averaging 4 hours most of the time. They've made some changes to some rules to be able to clamp down on some of the stuff that was happening. That's fine. But what they haven't done, there's the purists out there that say, 140 games a year, that's a lot. They haven't started impacting the number of games they're playing per year, where the NFL did, where they added the 17th regular season
Right.
game, where they added playoffs to NASCAR, where the NHL moved all the conferences around multiple times to try to establish fake rivalries that weren't really there. Baseball's done less of that. It's been a long time since there's been a reorg in the divisions. They've kept the rules for getting into the playoffs fairly static. They haven't. There was a time where who somebody was dating was a big deal in the dugout. That's not really that big of a thing anymore. They've kept a lot of that out. The baseball's problem is that they just pay everybody way too much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, some of the most exorbitant salaries come out of baseball. I
Yeah.
mean, I- you think of ways that the game also changes. It's when, and something that hasn't really happened in a while, except for I think MLS, but expansions of the actual
Yeah.
leagues.
Yeah. Well, I think what happens is they found out that letting teams flounder in cities that aren't going to support them versus just adding a new team somewhere else. There's a difference there. Now, hockey added the Vegas Knights and the Seattle Kraken and those sorts of things. They've done a little bit of expansion, but that was really to even out the leagues because they had some oddball pairings that weren't working. Now, Vegas, I think, is going to be problematic inside the next 10 years because it's a novelty there. That people aren't going to go to hockey games 5 years from now that live there. It's going to be a transient
But
fan base.
they're getting the A's.
They're getting, well, for baseball, I'm just talking hockey
Oh, I
specifically.
know. Oh, yeah.
Um,
I mean, but now Vegas is going to be a three, or I don't know if they have an MLS team, but three
they
or
do.
four sport team. Then they're going to be a four sport team.
But it'll be interesting because if you're not part of the ownership of some sort of attraction, whether it's a casino or something else, most of the people in Vegas are not well off. The people that go to those games are going to be made up of a serious contingent of people that are flying in. And
Yeah.
I think that's a problem in that. Uh, People in Phoenix, for a little while, it was fun going to a hockey game because it was cool in the arena,
Mm,
but it doesn't work so well anymore because that novelty wore off. It's still living in Tampa Bay somehow. I have no idea how, but um, you look at what happened with the St. Louis Cardinals moving to Arizona.
hmm.
St. Louis is still without a team. I'm sorry, St. Louis lost it to the Rams. The
Yeah,
St. Louis
correct.
Rams went to California. I,
But
I forget
Arizona
where the
Cardinals,
Cardinals came from.
yeah, they were from somewhere else.
I was screwing up the St. Louis Cardinals baseball
Yeah,
team with the
yeah.
St. Louis Rams football team, and then Cardinals. Massive screw up with no preparation on what we are going to be talking about here whatsoever. So I just think it's interesting because again, um, At what point are we going to start seeing celebrities' faces on the side of footballs?
I don't. God, we better not get there. I mean, I think where it goes next, like I worry about Arrowhead Stadium as an example. Let's say that they win the Super Bowl. All of a sudden, you start seeing Taylor Swift being advertised within the stadium walls or something to that effect, because it's like, the Hunt family's not stupid.
Yeah,
That's cash in their pocket. That's
yeah,
another way to capitalize on shit. Why not
yeah.
make more money off of it? So I think it's the commercialization of it that ends up being the problem more than the celebrity itself. It's the owners that are sitting back there. I mean, like, who's the Cowboys owner? Jerry Jones. I mean, any way he can spit out an extra dime, he's going to figure out a way to do it.
Oh yeah, he's an oil man. The oil men have very little restraint against the next penny that they can take out of somebody's pocket.
Yeah, yeah. Their fealty towards the game is not what it's about. It's about the dollar.
Yeah. Uh, so, do we have another topic before we finish up today, or are we going to try to make this funny so we don't lose the little audience that we have?
I know that this wasn't necessarily the funniest episode, but for me, I found it to be a pretty great open discussion because I actually learned something about NASCAR. I'll give credit where it's due. But I think that this is something that even the most passive sports viewer, even like myself, can glom onto and understand that, this isn't just sports that get affected by these kind of actions. It's it's a lot of different industries that get impacted by wealth and
Yeah.
greed and commercialization, which is now we're pushing like that way again, but I know that's less funny.
But again, this was something that we wanted to do on here was yes, we wanted to be funny. Some of the conversations that we had before we did this
Yeah.
were funny, but we also wanted to talk about serious issues too. I would like to talk about one non-serious issue, and I didn't vet this with you, but we're going there anyways.
Oh, fuck me. Okay, go ahead.
I'd prefer not to fuck you, but they found video of somebody that was on the trials for the first season of American Idol that looks an awful lot like Marjorie Taylor Greene. She calls herself, I believe it's Susan Sugarman. And
What?
she goes out there and she is horrible, just absolutely horrible. And she thinks she did a great job, leaves, comes back in and starts arguing with them about how good she was. And realize this is probably American Idol's got to be going on 17, 18 years now, maybe
Yeah.
20. Okay, so this is 20 years ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene. But my wife and I were both, well, it really could be, but we're not 100% sure. If you look up the clip, I believe it's Sarah or Susan Sugarman. The clip came out on YouTube a couple of days ago and it started to make its rounds around TikTok. And I mean, this is another William Hung situation. She's just horrible. Like, just there's no talent there whatsoever. You
It's
see it?
gotta be her.
Oh yeah, the face really looks like her. The voice sounds like her. The demeanor sounds like her. But it's hard to tell because of that 20 years.
Oh
But
no, fuck that. That's totally her. God damn it. It's the same smile.
yeah, and the temperament of I'm going to go and argue and tell them that they're wrong after they tell me I'm not moving on in the first round, that's perfectly her as well. So, what I think that should happen is we should just have a political America's Got Talent. And what we should do, they did this before with somebody, okay, but they didn't. They did a show where they didn't tell these people how bad they were. They made them think that they were really good. And I think what we should do is we should have a political America's Got Talent, and the entire premise of the show should be we don't tell them how bad they are until the end, and the person that wins gets told at the end exactly what's going on.
Stephanie Sugarman.
Stephanie Sugarman. That's it. Yes. So look,
Stephanie with an F, if anyone wants to look it up.
please go look it
Uh,
up.
oh
So
man, I can't wait to watch this. But the image, just the side by side image, it's gotta be her. Like, it has all the right features of her face.
Yeah, and when this episode comes out, I'll make sure that we link to this video on the website, and we'll make sure it gets up on Twitter. We have a TikTok channel now too, Repressed Humor Issues on TikTok. Um, we'll get it
Oh
up on
yeah,
there.
on the Twitter, let's do a poll.
Yes. Do you think this is
Yeah,
Stephanie Sugarman is Marjorie Taylor Greene? Yes.
yeah.
Um, but honestly, you have to watch it because I heard in your fight in our Minnesota that we taped a little bit ago about strangling a cat. Marjorie Taylor Greene is just a strangled cat in that. It's one of those things that it's Bubble Boy again. You have to watch it just to say you saw it happen.
I mean, I used to watch American Idol. I mean, of course, I like the good singers. Yeah, no shit. But and I'm like everyone. You watch for the disasters.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a disaster that we elected to Congress.
I want to clarify. I did nothing to get her to Congress.
Neither did I, no, nor would I ever. But that
No.
was the point of this. This is just, I mean, if we know that's out there, we know a Lauren Boebert thing is out there, and we know a Paul Gazar thing out there. There's videos of these people doing stuff that we can just laugh when we see it. Because right now, a lot of us need a really good laugh after some of the deep stuff that's happening right now in the world.
Yeah, it's been a dark week. That's for sure.
So if you out there have seen videos or have links to things where we can get a good laugh out of it, please send it to repressedhumorissues@gmail.com or use the contact us section at repressedhumorissues.com to be able to
Or
do so.
hit us in our DMs too. You can do it on TikTok at Repressed Humor Issues. You can do it on Instagram at Repressed Humor Issues. So hit us wherever we are. We want your content because that'd be fantastic. I would love to do an episode just based on stupid politician bullshit. Oh man, that'd be great. Or
Yeah,
it could be celebrity too. Like yeah, it could be whatever, right?
yeah. We've stayed out of most of the political realm just because we don't want to offend a whole bunch of people with our views, but we're more than willing to laugh at Democrat or Republican in those cases.
Oh yeah, equal opportunity. Uh I don't know why this moment made me think of this, but you've seen the movie Fast Times at Richmond High.
Yes.
So there's a burger scene where Sean Penn's like taking somebody's order. Did you look behind him? It's just Nicolas Cage standing behind him.
I did not. No.
It was like one of Nick Cage's very first movies, and he's just sitting back there. It was like one of those awkward cameos of a mega celebrity that was getting a start, and he's flipping
So,
burgers.
so just so you're aware, he has a new show out on Netflix, I believe, or Amazon Prime. I can't even remember the name of it, where somebody brings him to an island because he's basically hit the washed up point in his career. And he's got no more money. He's kicked out of his house and all that sort of stuff. It's tragic to watch. It's meant to be funny. It is not funny. It is horrible. It's at points he's talking to himself while he's in a drunken rage. I mean, that whole movie could be one of Nicolas Cage's celebrity flubs. It's just, I
I
mean, he's
mean,
done some weird movies before. This one was just unwatchable.
well, isn't he known for like being an insane debt because he bought like a actual Tyrannosaurus Rex skeletons or something like that?
Yeah, this is based off of some part of his life, but it turns into a spy thriller. And when it turned into that, we turned it off because no, just couldn't do it.
Oh, that sounds actually kind of lame. His
Yeah.
life is interesting. I will say that, like one of the more interesting celebrities, but
But it
I
would be like watching an entire movie about Tom Cruise and Scientology. It just would not be worth the viewing. It just, you couldn't do it.
we should do a Scientology episode.
We should. I've watched an awful lot, not just of Leah Remini stuff, but of other Scientology stuff. It's a good topic. And if you guys have other topics out
Yeah.
there, please let us know. We're not afraid to touch anything. We just want to make sure there's interest in it before we put you all to sleep.
Hold on. We won't touch certain things, just to be clear, because that way he said that it sounded like we touch physically touch anything. I want to be clear.
There will be no child touching in this show. That's what you're trying to say, right?
Oh no, I was going for pouch tuna.
Wow, I went a completely different direction there for some reason. I was worried about something completely different. Now I'm wishing that we had edited that we do edits on this show.
It's all good. Oh, but yeah. So I please reach out to us with any of your ideas. We do love hearing from you. You all have submitted some great stuff. So at repressed humor or repressed humor issues at gmail.com is the email address. Repressedhumorissues.com is the website. We've talked about the socials. So thank you all for joining this episode of Repressed Humor Issues. I am Napkin McDapper Pants, who has no pants. Brian.
And I'm the Metro City madman who's new-gerific, Dan.
Yeah, just still metrosexual, but
yeah, you did say the Metro City madman. You didn't plug this. I'm getting to this. We did the Minnesota for the celebrity cage match. That'll be coming out at the same time that this does. So go check that out to listen to Ryan prove he knows nothing about Ted Nugent.
It's true. I'll say it on the record, and I plan on not listening to his music still. But you all have a fantastic week. We look forward to talking to you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Sorry, my headphones were backwards.
Yeah, I know. It's not the only thing that's backwards. Napkin McDapper Pants. How much did you have to drink before we started this?
0. This is sobriety at its finest. Water and coffee. That's all I've had today.
Oh, wow.
I did have a lot of coffee though, but we sounded funny.
You didn't do the stay classy San Diego thing.
I was trying to mix it up.
Well, you got to mix it up with something consistent.
Well, I mean, next time I'll give out a cake recipe or something. That way they can whip it with consistency. Woo!
Okay, you just made it not funny.
Don't overfluff your eggs.
Wow. Just wow.